And just like that, the New York Jets season is on again. I mean, 3-3. Unbelievable. Jets go to 3-3 with a shockingly improbable victory at home against the previously undefeated Philadelphia Eagles, who of course the Jets had never beaten in all of their existence prior to tonight. A game, listen, nobody had the Jets in this game. Listen, the blind faithers, yes, you pick them in no matter who they're playing, no matter the circumstances. The Jets, you're playing with your fourth and fifth and sixth corners. You're playing with guys who weren't on the team 10 days ago, and they're starting. They're not just on the field getting a few reps. You've got guys who weren't on the team a week, 2 weeks ago, starting in this football game. You've got Bryce Hall, only his second start since, a couple years ago when he had the 17 in year two. And the Jets defense just comes out and smothers the Philadelphia Eagles. This is, I would say, the first game, the first time we've seen this year where things played out the way we all hoped or expected when Zach Wilson entered as the team starter. And I've brought this up a couple of times in games where people have gotten on Zach Wilson for the loss. Oh my God. By the way, Glenn Naughton, JetNation.com. Be sure to log into JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. Zach Wilson, when he enters as the starter for this team when Aaron Rodgers goes down, the formula was supposed to be Zach protect the ball, ground game, defense, win football games. That was the plan. And we saw several games where Zach Wilson not only protected the ball, but produced and played far better than anyone anticipated, and the Jets still didn't win games. And you heard me say it. I said it on our show earlier in the week. And then if you watched One Jets Drive, you heard Robert Saleh say the same exact thing. And then he touched on it briefly just now in his press conference. I understand pro players, you're in the NFL, you're getting paid, you're supposed to perform. I get that. But if you look at this Zach Wilson situation with all of the context, and I'll run through it again because we've talked about this before, and the Zach Wilson haters hate this stuff because they just want to say he sucks, he sucks, he sucks. They don't want to. They don't want to talk about the fact that he wasn't supposed to play this year. And again, we've talked about that. That was a Joe Douglas flub, not having a veteran backup. Which obviously now, if Zach keeps getting better, then it's not a flub anymore. But you still would have preferred an experienced veteran if the plan was truly for Zach Wilson to sit this year, which it should have been. You end up being the starter after 4 snaps, having been the guy who wasn't supposed to see the field. You then not only are you the starter, you're the starter 1 week after another against top defense after top defense after top defense. The Cowboys, Micah Parsons took that damn game over. The Bills are the Bills. Very good defense. This Eagles defense, a million different guys had double-digit sacks on that team last year. And I get there were injuries, but don't talk to me about any injuries for any other team. The Jets lost Aaron Rodgers. They lost Elijah Vera Tucker. They played today without Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed and who was injured during the game? I'm drawing a blank now. Well, Garrett Wilson left temporarily. Of course, sorry, Joe Tippmann. Joe Tippmann was injured during the game. Had to come out, was replaced by Wes Schweitzer, who was a little bit shaky. But either way, let's see. Tony Adams is our safety, and Zach Wilson played better than Hurts. Another game where Zach Wilson played better than the elite quarterback he's going against. It doesn't look pretty because he's not getting in the damn end zone. That does have to change. But again, let's be honest here. Lots of big drops by the Jets. The Allen Lazard penalty, where the Jets were going to be inside the 10, first down inside the 10. Now, listen, nobody's here to say they wouldn't have ended up kicking a field goal there, too, because that is the biggest issue facing this team right now is that they're settling for field goals. However, if you compare this to last year's Zach Wilson or the year before Zach Wilson, you couldn't even get down the field to get into field goal range. So Zach Wilson, again, it's a progressive thing. People want to see the fantasy numbers. They want to see the 40 touchdowns or you suck. That's not the way real life works in the NFL. You can get better. You can do things better and move forward progressively. It's not all going to happen overnight. but we've seen Zach Wilson. We've seen more decisiveness. We saw him throw the ball down the field a little bit more today. Let's see, every game is tough. The Eagles can testify to that. Nothing easy. Steve, absolutely. Nothing easy for the Jets ever. Some of these blown calls. I mean, listen, if that is what the rule says, that you can be standing dead straight right in front of a defender, like chest to chest, looking right at the guy, and you can hit him face to face, and that's a illegal blindside block. The NFL has a lot of things wrong with themselves right now. Kirk, he's still getting better, not losing games by protecting. Exactly, Kirk. This is my point. This is what we were supposed to be asking of Zach Wilson. Protect the ball, give the defense and running game a chance to win you some football games. And last year and the year before, he was not able to do that. This year he is, because he's sustaining drives, he's maintaining time of possession. They're moving the ball down the field. They're not constantly punting. The defense isn't worn out from being on the field all day. Zach Wilson is not the problem with this team. He needs to get better, but a couple big things here. When they're driving and it looks like they're in position for a big score, you call a naked bootleg on Hassan Reddick's side. 0 blockers. Yes, Zach has to get rid of the ball, but also could we not have a situation where you have an elite pass rusher bearing down on the guy within a second of getting the ball? Again, the Lazard block in the red zone, that was, to me, ridiculous. Obviously not another play where you could have been set up for potentially a touchdown. You didn't get it. There's no denying the red zone offense isn't working. A big part of it is the play calling. Some of it is the penalties. Some of it is Zach Wilson. But right now, Zach Wilson is moving the ball down the field, not turning it over. Anyone who's upset with this and still ripping Zach, and I know there always will be, because there were so many fans who were so out on Zach that they want him to fail so they can be right. He's not the problem right now. Can he be better? Yes, but today was a day where everyone did what we hoped they would do this season. Play defense, protect the football, run the ball. And the running game, let's be honest, wasn't that great today. But the defense absolutely lights out. Lights out defense. I still can't believe this. I cannot believe that this team didn't have Sauce Gardner, didn't have DJ Reed, didn't have Brandon Eccles, took on the Philadelphia Eagles, who have arguably, I wouldn't even say arguably, they have a top 2 or 3 tandem at wide receiver. And you go out there as the Jets and completely shut those guys down. A.J. Brown had 1 catch, and was that a catch? He had one big play deep down the field. He had some run after catch. He did put up some big yards, but I expected multiple touchdowns from at least one of their receivers. As it turned out, nobody. Nobody had the big day that a lot of us expected. Multiple TDs. Again, Brown had some yards. A lot of them came on the one play where, look, I feel like that ball was moving around when he landed out of bounds, but who gives a damn? The Jets got the win. But Quincy Williams, huge day again. Quinnen Williams, first career interception. Congrats to him on that. Tony Adams. That's a game-winning play right there. That play wins the game. The Eagles normally, and I almost tweeted it out. I almost said, damn it, they left too much time on the clock. And the broadcasters were saying it, and I had friends messaging me, and everybody was right. I get where everyone's coming from. And I started saying, I was like, too much time on the clock? And I was like, you know what? No. This defense has it. They're going to get the stop here. I don't care if there's a minute, minute and a half, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. They need one more stop, and they're getting it right here. And they got it. Great job. C.J. Mosley had a nice pass breakup. Across the board, this defensive line, Bryce Huff, can you believe? And I wasn't shocked at the time. I'm not going to do the revisionist history thing and pretend I was saying this at the time. But to look back now and to think any NFL team could have had him for a second-round pick. Anyone. He was there for the taking. Jets placed a second-round tender on him, and not a great job by the Jets looking back at it. He's a player who has gotten better, considerably better, especially against the run, which is what was holding him back before, but now he's a full-time guy now. Garrett Wilson, 8 catches for 90. Breece Hall, 5 for 54. Tyler Conklin, 3 for 24. Ruckert had 1 for 8. That was a big spot. That was a big third down that allowed Ruckert to convert for first down. Quincy Williams, another double-digit tackle game with 11. C.J. Mosley had 10. You had interceptions for Bryce Hall, for Tony Adams. As I mentioned, Quinnen Williams had 1. Then, of course, there were sacks for Bryce Huff. John Franklin Myers had a half a sack that he shared with Quentin Jefferson. I really thought Huff. I thought he was in on one of those where he would have had another half. But either way, I mean, these guys got pressure all day. Philadelphia, it felt like Philly ran the ball. There were a couple of big spots where they needed a run and they got one. But all in all, yeah, I'm looking at the whole total numbers now. This is probably the Jets' best game of the year statistically against the run. DeAndre Swift, 10 carries for 17. Kenneth Gainwell, 2 for 13. Boston Scott, 2 for 2. Jalen Hurts, eight catches for 47. And so Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown combined for 175. A.J. Brown, 131 of those. Neither one of them finds the end zone. DeAndre Swift, the only one who does find the end zone. And if I'm not mistaken, can't remember if it was Quincy or Jordan Whitehead. Somebody needed to wrap him up. He's got to be wrapped up there. Let's see. I agree. What I'm seeing from Wilson, he's played some of the best defense. Exactly, Johnny. This is what I said the other day. This is exactly what we just heard Robert Saleh say in his presser. We heard it again. If you watch One Jets Drive, which was an excellent episode, you heard Robert Saleh say this was the perfect storm for Zach Wilson for him to have this statistically this rough start. It's like, here we go. This kid's entering the season. Aaron Rodgers back up. Hopefully he doesn't see the field. Not only does he see the field, but it's a gauntlet. One tough defense after another. I mean, this Eagles defense, you just had an interception called by the officials or waved off by the officials that had that not happened, the Jets may have realistically beaten both Super Bowl teams from last year. You just beat the team that lost, and you had the other one on the ropes, and the refs bailed them out by taking away an interception. That's how good this team is. And listen, when I heard Sauce was out of this game, I thought, look, prior to Sauce going out, I said, oh, the Jets are going to lose. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking maybe you can pull it out. Maybe there's a way. And I said earlier today on Twitter, I said the Jets' only chance to win this game is there's got to be consistent pressure because the back end's not going to hold up if you're not getting pressure. And they got pressure all day. They didn't have to blitz a ton. They got tons of pressure in big spots. As I said, John Franklin Myers, a big play by him. Carl Lawson, by the way, he had a couple reps early where he, looked probably, I would say, better than he has most of this year. Then he had one or two late in the game where it almost looked like he was limping, like half speed on one leg. Again, could be my imagination, but worth watching with the Carl Lawson situation. But all in all, you can't say enough about the way this defense, the New York Jets, just beat the 5-0 Philadelphia Eagles without their top three corners. That's how good this defense played. And I've been talking all year about this defense and how I understand they've been imperfect. I understand there have been issues. I understand the bend but don't break is frustrating. I understand they have to do a better job of getting off the field on third down. Like, I get there are many things to worry about or criticize with this defense. But what I keep coming back to is they're not giving up points. Like, they're keeping teams out of the end zone. And that's your primary job. Offense wants to get in the end zone, you want to keep them out. And the Jets defense, for all the yards and chunk plays and first downs and, third down conversions they're allowing, they're still holding strong in the end, in the red zone, at the goal line. And again, if they wrap up with Swift today at the goal line, they may have kept him out. They may have kept him out on that play. But with this defense, they just held the Eagles to 14 points without their top three corners. That's unbelievable. That is shocking. And you cannot give Robert Saleh and Jeff Ulbrich, you can't give them enough credit for what they just did, for beating this team. Lot of Eagles fans in that crowd. I heard it early on. I saw, who was it? One or two beat writers tweeted about it. Dan Leberfeld, Jets Confidential, saw him tweet out after an early Eagles third down conversion. A lot of Philly fans in the house, a lot of loud applause, cheering when the Eagles converted on third down. So not really as friendly of a home crowd as you would expect because Eagles fans travel and a lot of Jets fans sold their tickets, and I'll bet they regret it. But again, I can't say enough about this team. DFF says we will make the playoffs. Listen, you just played the toughest part of your schedule. You came out 3 and how I feel like that Patriots game is going to come back to bite them. If they don't make the playoffs, that's the game they're going to look at and go, "Damn it, we were the better team. We should have won that football game, and we didn't." And they didn't. You'd be 4-2 right now if you beat the Pats. Unbelievable. But listen, you're 3-3. If anyone had told you on the opening drive of the season when Aaron Rodgers went down and was out for the year, if anyone had said to you, you're going to be going into the bye at 500, you would have said, no way. There's no way without Aaron Rodgers and having to play the Bills and the Cowboys and the Chiefs and the Eagles and that you'd be 3-3. No way. You'd think maybe you steal one win. Maybe you play well enough. You flat out beat somebody. Maybe the Patriots, they're not as good as they. Maybe you beat the Pats and you steal another win. But 3-3, no way. And here they are, New York Jets, 3-3. Even beating the lowly Broncos, winning in Denver for a team again with a quarterback who is having their struggles in the red zone. But let's face it, Zach Wilson, again, not this team's problem. And if you're still knocking him and hating on him, this to me now, with the bye week coming and 2 weeks to prepare and the softer part of the schedule coming up, this is where Zach Wilson needs to shine. This is where, if we keep seeing these red zone struggles through the first, second, third week of the season as they roll forward out of the bye, then I can see some legitimate criticism because you're not facing the juggernaut schedule that you just had to kind of navigate. Let's see. Jose Batista, love this team win. Our defense, the team is legit. Stop at the fire Salah. Did someone say fire Salah? Give me a break. Listen, no one's getting fired or going anywhere for Zach Will. I'll say this to the Zach Wilson haters. And this was the case after the KC game. Once they played that KC game and Zach Wilson outplayed Patrick Mahomes, I thought to myself right away, like, okay, well, he just bought himself another minimum 8 weeks with that. I almost said win with that play, the way he played against Kansas City. Now, stringing a couple of wins together, still not turning the ball over, and as I said, some softer opponents coming up. Zach's not going anywhere, and by that I mean he's not going to the bench the way some people want them to. No red zone, and you don't think Zach is one of the problems. He's far from the biggest problem. He does need to be better, but they need to be more aggressive in the red zone. They need to not get stupid penalties in the red zone. They need to catch the football in the red zone. They need to not run naked bootlegs in the red zone, or at least not in that spot. In a spot that crucial, when you're trying to crawl back into a game or get a lead, naked bootleg, I don't have a problem with as much if maybe if you've got a small lead. But in a critical spot where you need points, that was a terrible job. So is he one of the problems? I would say he's got to be better for sure. But he is far from the problem. And I think here's what's encouraging about today, right? No touchdowns, I get it. But we did see an even more aggressive passing attack, which is what I've been saying for a little while now. Like, again, baby, like this isn't going to happen overnight. Like, you want to see a little bit of improvement from Zach Wilson. And you saw that several weeks ago. And then it's like, okay, now we want to see if he can be a little bit better consistently. And now we've seen that. He's been a little bit better and he's doing it consistently. Week to week, you're getting an idea of what you can expect. And then you say, okay, now let's add more on his plate. We've done this and this and this. Now let's bring in some more deep shots down the field. Now let's throw the ball, early in the series a little bit more and let him. I'd like to see more hurry up, and maybe that's coming. Let's see. So, what's the reason to fire Joe Douglas now? Some fans are crazy, and even KD. Listen, I wouldn't doubt it. Some of the vitriol that gets fired off of these guys. Listen, here's the thing with Joe Douglas, and I say this all the time. Every GM has their misses. Like, people reply when I say nice things about Joe Douglas. Sometimes people will reply to me with some of his worst moves, and he's had some bad moves. But they do that as if that's exclusive to Joe Douglas. As if they're going to say to me, oh, but look, he did this thing. And I'm going to go, oh, my God, he missed on a guy? Well, I guess you got to move on. No. Every GM misses. Most GMs miss most transactions, most draft picks. Most GMs miss on most picks. So don't talk to me about, oh, but he drafted James Morgan. I don't care. Is he finding enough high level players to make this team very good? The answer to that is yes. That's his job as a GM. And now, as the quarterback appears to be getting, well, not appears to be, as the quarterback is getting better, if he continues to get better and goes from being a guy who you could argue didn't belong on a roster to being a guy who can manage a game, to being a guy who can make some plays in some big spots, to being a guy who maybe carries you to a couple of wins, which we haven't seen yet. But if he gets into that sort of echelon of quarterback, now Joe Douglas sticking with Zach Wilson at a time when everybody was, or a lot of people were willing to give up on him and bail on him, that'll just be another great move by Joe Douglas. But yeah, anyone who wants to get rid of Joe Douglas or Robert Saleh or Zach Wilson, like Jets fans, how many times have we seen this team bail on guys too early? Or not have the patience to sit and let somebody get better. That's been my point with Robert Saleh, as people have said, "Oh, get rid of Saleh." I always say, how many coaches are they going to bring here and fire? And it's not like he's Adam Gase, right? I mean, he's imperfect. He's had some things that he could do better, but maybe let him learn on the job instead of sending him somewhere else to learn. Sarah Johnson says Geno Smith's a good example. I've mentioned Geno a few times. The one caveat with Geno is it took him 7 years to get better, and Zach Wilson doesn't have 7 years. But I'm with you, Sarah. I've mentioned that example a few times. Paul Miller says, quarterbacks take time to develop. Many of them do. I've heard people say it before. These guys who hit right away, these guys who come in year one and within 10, 20 career games, they're playing at a high level. They're bad for the game. And what I mean by that is it creates unrealistic expectations and gets people fired and gets guys cut. Well, you're this and you're not this good yet, and that guy was. Right. But not every guy's the same. And Zach Wilson, big time arm out of a small time school, young kid. And the Jets have acknowledged as much. I mean, it was blatantly obvious. I don't know how you could not acknowledge it. But Joe Douglas said, look, we played him too early. Okay. We shouldn't have played the kid that early. But rather than throw the baby out with the bathwater, they trusted their evaluation and said, okay, this is what we thought about this kid as a quarterback. And we still think that of him. And we're the ones who caused him to fail. So let's hit the reset button, not get rid of him, and start over again, which is unorthodox. A lot of teams don't do that. A lot of teams aren't willing. And that's why I said at the time, I said, whether this works or not, I like it. I like the fact that they're saying, let's do something different. Let's not do what every other team does, what this team does every time a quarterback doesn't work out and just dump them. Let's say that was our mistake. We're going to take a step back. We want the quarterback to take a step back, and we're going to start as if we just drafted him. We're going to pretend those 2 years didn't happen, and we're going to start from day one. We're going to make him a backup. We're going to get him a mentor, and we're going to see if that works. I love it. And like I said, if Zach Wilson doesn't work out, I won't backpedal and say it was stupid. I love it. Love that approach. Let's see. Frankie D says, God, he was really bad, though. It's hard not to want to bail. Frankie, I say all the time, I was 1,000,000% behind the pick. I love the pick. Zach was the guy I wanted. I watched every single throw he made in college. And when he was bad, I called it out. And people got mad at me. And I said, what do you want from me? You want me to lie? Like, because I wanted him, because he was the guy that I wanted them to take, I should now pretend that I didn't want him at all because he was terrible. And he was so bad. He couldn't complete a screen pass. That's not even high school level. That's Pop Warner stuff. And he couldn't do it. He was beyond bad. It was scary. And I understood why people wanted him gone. But I kind of felt like, let's pump the brakes and let's give him some time. Michael Eckman, I hope we still have a chance to make the playoffs. Hey, listen, this team is 3-3. And as somebody pointed out to me, or as somebody said, they hope that the Miami Dolphins are playing a very angry Eagles team next week. Or wait, I believe that's Miami's next game is Philly. Absolutely, because this Eagles team is damn good. And if they come out and beat Miami, and the Jets have what? The Jets have the Giants next. Listen, excuse me. You share a building, co-tenants. I get that. Same fan base, rivalry, but you can't lose to this Giants team. I mean, I'm not going to get too much into previewing the Giants and what that's going to mean, but you can't lose to this Giants team. But this defense, I mean, again, you just held the Eagles to 14, and what are the Giants compared to the Eagles offensively? They can't get anything right now. They're absolutely atrocious. I'm trying to look. I'm not seeing the score today for the Giants game. I can't even remember what time they kicked off. Did they score any points today? Anybody know? Let's see. Pop this up right here. Giants. Oh, they okay. They played Monday night. They play in the Bills. I don't see the Giants scoring any points. Tyrod Taylor behind the patchwork offensive line. That's going to get ugly. New England lost again today. I think they're all in on Drake May, Caleb Williams, whichever one they can get. I think they're just going to lose the rest of the way out. But look, I like our playoff. Look, that was the thing, Jomo. That's why today was so big. I mean, it seems like the difference between 3-3. Oh, they do play tonight. See, this is the thing. When you're in England and you go on NFL.com, they give you it says the local day. So like it'll be Monday in England when that game kicks off. So when I just clicked on it, it said I just looked at the day, not the time. It said Bills Giants Monday night, but it's Monday morning. But let's see. Like the playoff chances at 3-3 rather than 2-4. Listen, it. I don't want to harp on it, but that New England loss is a killer, man. Could you imagine if this team right now was 4-2? I mean, you'd be booking your playoff tickets. If they were 4-2 and they just beat the Eagles and they beat the Bills already, we're Giants fans. Oh hell yeah! But they ain't. Listen, I know there've been some miracle games today. The Browns beat the Niners. The Jets beat the Eagles. But the Giants ain't beating the Bills. That game, the Bills might win. The Bills might be resting their starters by halftime. Um, I think I don't know if he's starting, but I saw the other. Remember Yadni Kajust, who the Jets had in training camp, former New England Patriot, West Virginia product, I believe. As of a few days ago, he was the only NFL tackle on their roster, like with NFL tackle experience, I believe, and he'd only been with the team a few days. So, yeah, 49ers lost. That is unbelievable. And listen, I will be rooting for the Giants tonight. I like Tyrod Taylor. I've always felt like underappreciated guy. Not a great player, but he gets. I feel like he doesn't get enough credit for being a solid player. Not a great player, but he's a solid player. Let's see. We can compete and beat any team in the NFL, especially if we're healthy, says Frankie D. Frankie, listen. Earlier in the year, and listen, Jets fans are torn, divided, everyone where they think this team is. And this goes back to last year in the playoffs. And I've said this on our show a couple of times, and I think I've said it on some other people's podcasts once or twice. When I watched the playoffs last year, and I don't remember, it was I forget which two games they were. Yeah, Milano's out for the year. That's huge. Um, but I was watching the playoffs, and the number of teams I saw losing games on these key drives where they were giving up these big pass plays. And I'm watching and thinking, if the Jets could sneak into the damn playoffs, I would want to see how teams beat them. Because with Sauce and DJ Reed, like, yeah, there's gonna be some plays. But the number of big plays you're gonna make down these deep sideline throws, you're gonna have far less of that against the Jets than you are other teams. Like, teams are gonna have to adjust and figure out a way to beat the Jets if when they're at full health. And that's the point you make, right, Frankie? We can beat anyone if they're at full. The Jets can beat anyone if they're at full health, and that's the way I feel. I feel like, and I said it last year when they when they were losing that, but still playing well and keeping games close and all that. I just kept saying this team is all about Quinnen and the corners because Quinnen Williams makes almost so much of what goes on up front is because of him, and it's the corners on the outside that give that D line a little bit of extra time. So again, if the corners are healthy, if the D line is healthy, they can. I'm not going to say shut anybody down. They can slow anybody down, right? And again, I'm so pumped to watch the film for this game because I'm beside myself. I keep mentioning it. I just still cannot believe how good these corners played, or how few what a good job they did of keeping these guys out of the end zone. Jalen Hurts took the deep shot late in the game, underthrown a little bit. Jordan Whitehead almost had himself another interception. But Zach Wilson, he just keeps he just keeps doing a great job of protecting the football, um, moving the ball a little bit. And there were some frustrating throws today. The deep ball down to Conklin, as they said on the broadcast, probably let it go a hair too soon or a hair too late rather. If he lets that ball go a little bit sooner, that could be a deep completion down the sidelines. My holy king says, honestly, I think Zach would be nervous in the playoffs. Yeah, listen, let's get there. How about that? Let's find out. Let's have the team get to the playoffs. And speaking of which, Mr. Aaron Rodgers, Mr. I want to come back for the playoffs. He's out playing catch on the sidelines before the game. He's literally out there, no crutches, playing. I think they said he was out there for about 5 minutes. But I just look at that guy. I'm like, don't hurt yourself. Just, I want him to heal. It's like, oh, great, he's off crutches. Now get on the damn crutches. Ah, it's concerning. But again, you say you think Zach would be nervous in the playoffs. Let's see them get to the playoffs and find out if he's nervous. I mean, these are big games for him. These are big games. He's showing himself that he can go out against top-notch defenses, move the ball, and again, while he's not getting in the end zone, that's the next step, right? Now, again, if they don't find the end zone, a couple times, couple touchdown passes over the next few games when they come back off the bye, then I'll be a little bit more worried. But right now, I'm not. I'm not. I'm very happy with where Zach Wilson is right now. Um, he's doing a lot of things really well. Again, I can't remember how many drops. Michael Carter with another one, and I like Michael Carter a lot. But he had one a couple weeks ago against the Chiefs, a huge drop. Another one today that could have been very costly. These guys have to start holding on to the football for Zach Wilson. But I mean, you got to be pumped if you're a Jets fan. Going into the bye with a huge win, and it's a weird thing this losing streak against the Eagles, right? Oh, the Jets have lost 12 in a row. It's I said this the other day on our show. I very strangely don't care, or like even when it was 0-12, it was like I think it's just because it's a non-division, non-conference opponent who you rarely play, and really a team. Let's be honest, you don't care about. Like who cares? There's a lot of teams in the league that the Jets hardly ever see. And if they just happen to randomly be 0-10, it's like, well, I'd rather they weren't, but I really don't care that they are. But it was still nice to get a win, especially in this spot. Zach and Hackett is a slow build. At least it's positive. Absolutely, KD. That's the thing. These two have to grow together. Hackett's been of late. He's been more aggressive. I mean, look, I was critical of him early, um, but now we're seeing him do a lot of the stuff that we hoped he would do. A lot of the stuff we were asking for early on. More tight ends, some deep shots down the field, and we're seeing that now. Let's see. Zach Wilson breaks under pressure in the playoffs. There's a lot of pressure. Well, we'll see. Again, there was pressure last week. When he had to have some big completions to keep the ball moving, and he did a good job. He kept them going. And listen, how about this one for Zach Wilson under pressure? You could argue, and actually, it's not even an argument. His best game of the year was against the Kansas City Chiefs. And that was easily the most pressure he has faced as a pro. Because now he's supposed to have, even though you could say he wasn't supposed to play, which he wasn't, he still had a full off season and several months of preseason training camp to work with Aaron Rodgers. So you would expect some improvement. And then you're going in, you're playing the defending world champs, primetime football, and the team just added Trevor Siemian. And everyone knows if Zach doesn't play well in that game, he's gone. He said, and there were those saying, I'm trying to remember who it was, and they may not have. I don't know that I agree with it, but there was one analyst saying, if you pull Zach for Trevor Siemian, he's done. You cannot bench a quarterback as many times as they have benched Zach Wilson and do it again and expect him to come back. That to me was the most pressure Zach Wilson has ever faced since entering the NFL, and he turned in his best performance. Let's see. What do you got, John? Okay, in the business world, failure leaves scares that turn into scars that turn into armor. That does say scares. That wasn't me. If Wilson turns into the QB we all hoped on draft day, he'll eat adversity for lunch. I know it's a big if, but so is absolutely, John. Look, this is a game they had no business winning, none whatsoever. I sat down to watch a game with my kids. I think they were out cold by before halftime. And I told them, I said, "Look, guys, this one's probably going to be ugly. This game is not going to go well. I explained to them that they were playing the defending world or the defending Super Bowl runner-up, and it's Sauce and DJ Reed, and I explained all the injuries and said that the Jets are going to have a really hard time defending these receivers, so it could get ugly early on, and that's just kind of the way it goes. Um, and lo and behold, listen. I'm sitting here talking about it. I'm still going through my head. How did they just win that game? But they did it with big plays on defense. Quincy Williams almost had an interception late in the game down the sideline, but he gets himself a PBU. Like I said last week, as the game was wrapping up, All Pro Quincy Williams, and then I think a little while later, Quinnen Williams tweeted All Pro linebacker Quincy Williams, and absolutely, he's playing at an All Pro level right now, and it's fun to watch. And I know the Jets just signed him, but I think it was only a 2-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's looking for a big pay raise. And actually, they'll with 1 year left on his deal, unless I'm mistaken. I'm gonna have to look that up later. I can't remember if they gave him 2 or 3 years. I think it was two. Um, but he'll be wanting some money. Let's see. Jets played the Eagles like it was a playoff game. Zach wasn't nervous. Hope they can get up and play like this for lesser teams. And that's the big thing, right? What is it? Highlander Prime. You don't want to play to the level of your opponent. You have weaker opponents coming up now, and and the Giants would be a perfect example right out of the gate. This is a team you're going to be playing in your building, and I wonder it's going to be interesting to see how many Jets fans are able to get tickets for that. Let's see. I saw that KD Sauce Gardner did tweet out that Quinnen Williams has more interceptions than he does. Um, but yeah, this Giants game, what's the balance going to be like in the stands? Is it going to be mostly Jets fans? Is it going to be mostly Giants fans? Because Jets fans are pumped and Giants fans are not. And nor should they be. Like I said, they're in a very ugly situation. They don't really have anything going for them right now. They don't have any healthy linemen. They don't have a quarterback who's playing well. They don't have anything going for them. I don't know how many games they'll win the rest of the way. They might be in position with the Patriots to draft one of these big time quarterbacks. And so this is the team the Jets should be able to come out and say, let's tee off today. This is our first game of the year where we're not just the better team, but we are the better team by a lot. By a lot. This Jets D line should be able to get off after Daniel Jones all day, even if guys get healthy. I know Andrew Thomas is a good player, but really, Ben Breedis has been kind of a disappointment for them from what I've seen. Um, I only mentioned that because I liked him a lot coming out of Michigan. I thought he'd be a good player. My holy king, have a good night. You too, absolutely enjoy this win, savor it. And I know I'm going to. I'm going to sign off for now. That game was a ton of fun. Thanks for logging in to watch, to talk, to chat. Normally, I don't do the lives right after the game, but I was too pumped. I was too excited. I was like, I got to talk to people. I got to hear what Jets fans are saying. I want to see what Jets fans are thinking. Absolutely loved it. Huge win. Still can't believe they pulled it off. 3-3 heading into the bye. The Jets are absolutely in position to make a playoff run. We're all here for it. Have a good one, Jets fans. Wrap this one up.